Hi folks, I'm Steve Hindy for Showing Animals Respect and Kindness. We've received a number of letters and emails from our supporters who know we weren't at the National Animal Rights Conference last year, inquiring whether we will be there this year. The short answer is no, and in this video I will attempt to explain why. 12 years ago, in 2006, I was inducted into the Animal Rights Hall of Fame at the National Animal Rights Conference in Washington, D.C. It was an interesting experience. It's nice when others acknowledge your work, and I won't deny that I appreciated this gesture. In the years since, however, I've watched the movement diminish itself, in many cases changing its focus from helping animals to making money, and sometimes committing outright fraud. For some years I've said that the animal cause deserves a better movement. That has never been more true than today. In recent years, a lot more money has come into the movement as people generally become more sensitized to animal suffering. Unfortunately, what should have been a very positive development for animal protection has instead transformed from a compassionate movement into a money-making industry, and a corrupt industry at that. Much like the megachurch, the leaders of the animal rights movement are out for their followers' money, despite what they're preaching. There are still great groups and individuals working for animals, but they aren't the ones getting the vital support. The real money is going to the bullshitters. In some cases, people who started out as great frontline activists making real change have been swallowed up by big groups and subsequently allowed themselves to devolve into bureaucrats. Those groups have abandoned their skill at making change for the animals, working instead to hone their skills at fundraising. And then there are the hustlers and the outright con artists for whom money was always the focus, not stopping animal abuse. Today there are groups and individuals who haul in donations based on what they're going to do, but then there's no follow-through. Some groups are now selling donors on algorithms that they claim will tell you where to send your donations to the most productive groups, which coincidentally just happen to be connected to the people producing the algorithms. Who is stupid enough to believe this insanity? Many of the so-called movement leaders aren't directly running these scams, but they have failed to speak out about what is going on. They aren't leaders at all because they've quietly sat by and watched the movement be decimated for fear of offending a donor with the truth about the scams. The National Animal Rights Conference is a reflection of the worsening state of the movement. It once had a mission of turning out better activists, but now I see a conference that works to churn out profit. People who were once encouraged to get out and campaign for animals are now encouraged to buy trinkets, vegan food, and t-shirts. Partying into the night is the new activism. You just talk a good game while you drink yourself silly. Listening to speakers and looking at exhibits used to be educating people on how to be more effective activists. Now, the speakers and exhibits are reduced to entertainment. In recent years, Shark has exposed various scammers and bad actors in the movement, but we have found that very few people have any desire to hear the truth, much less do something about it. The result is hauntingly similar to the devolution of the National Rifle Association, which began as an organization focused on improving gun safety. Now the NRA has devolved into a group that stubbornly resists improving gun safety in spite of the regular slaughter of innocents. The NRA further allowed its devolution with the inclusion of people such as Ted Nugent, a pigeon shooter and general animal serial killer, as well as other pigeon shooters and similarly reprehensible characters. If the animal protection movement in the so-called Hall of Fame, we find con artists like PETA co-founder Alex Pacheco and Peter Singer. We find speakers like rip-off artist Will Potter. Among the sponsors, we find Svengali's and Kool-Aid drinkers such as animal charity evaluators. That's just the tip of the iceberg. In the face of unprecedented information about the horrors to which animals are subjected worldwide, we find perhaps the most glaring example of delusion and hubris of the National Animal Rights Conference in its final plenary, which is titled, "We're Winning." I've been railing against this outrage for a few years, but it matters not to those putting on the conference, because the mission is no longer focused on an active movement. The new goal is a profitable industry, and because there are so many suckers, business is good. The problem is, and always has been, that the animals can't file a complaint about a movement that has largely forsaken them. We do see winning in other areas of society. Women, minorities, students, and others are truly fighting for change. Big animal groups today are focusing time, effort, and money to market themselves, paying for media coverage, and schmoozing donors as opposed to actually working for the animals by conducting investigations and working to stop cruelty and killing. Falsely claiming the animals are winning gives the impression that real action is no longer required, when nothing could be further from the truth. Where are the bold campaigns in animal rights today? I'm not talking about stripping off your clothes or putting on some fancy gala. I'm talking about real action. It doesn't exist. Weak leaders have developed weak followers. It's gotten so bad that in the unlikely event that the big groups were to decide to make a big frontline effort, they'd have enormous trouble because it's been so long since they were on the front lines. Their real activists are long since gone. Those making the absurd claim that we're winning are either hopelessly uninformed as to the miserable state of the animal protection movement, or they're flat-out liars. Go out to the killing fields and see how horribly the animals are actually losing, not winning. In any case, I cannot in good conscience hold this award any longer, and I'm sending it back. While I have never been more supportive of and dedicated to moving animal issues forward, I have absolutely no time for empty gestures from a corporate movement that has completely lost its way and has had its collective head planted firmly where the sun doesn't shine. I'm Steve Hindy for Showing Animals Respect and Kindness.